My mom taught me to sell at a spaza shop. She ran a hair salon. I pretty much learned entrepreneurship from my moms.
Umntu ngumntu ngabantu. That on your own, you can't really do it. You need the support of those around you.
You will have a network of people, a network of communities, and a society that will make sure that you count.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to this evening's issue of SAITA StraightTalk. The SAITA StraightTalk series of discussions are powered by the South African Informal Traders Alliance, or SAITA, the organization and the voice that aims to unite the sector. And in the SAITA StraightTalk series, we talk about all things that are very, very relevant to the informal trader. So we know that it's not just about this, it's also about our basis. A few weeks ago, we had a discussion around gender-based violence. But in this time of the year, in South Africa, we put particular focus on gender-based violence during the 16 days of activism against women and children. So against violence against women and children. I've seen stats that says between 25 and 40% of women in their lives will suffer some form of gender-based violence. And there are different types of gender-based violence. It's not necessarily just a blue eye. It can be a broken heart as well. And it is often referred to as a secondary pandemic. So if you think that COVID is bad, I would actually be bold enough to say that the one thing we desperately need is a vaccine against gender-based violence, and people should all be vaccinated against it. As usual, I promise you that we have a guest panelist that are specialists in the area, people who've got first-hand experience, and tonight really is exactly the same as before. I would like to, this evening, greet Akila Benjamin. Akila, good evening and very warm welcome to SAITA.
Good evening. Thank you. So,
please tell us more about yourself, Akila.
Okay, so as you introduced me, I'm Akila Benjamin. I'm currently working at a child protection organization as a social worker. Organization is called Padisa. And I'm also doing my master's in criminal justice social work, meaning my specialization is forensic social work. Yeah, so that is me.
Thank you, Akila. We also have Mara Glennie. Mara, good evening, and very, very warm welcome to you too on SAITA StraightTalk.
Yes, hello. I'm so excited to be with all of you today because so often we get to be talking about 16 days of activism and then choops, it's finished and nothing happens. So I'm thinking that together we can make change and we can make a difference. So it's very exciting.
Thank you, Mara. Mara, you are the founder of Tears Foundation. Why don't you please tell us your story and how Tears came about?
I founded Tears because I'm a survivor of abuse that nearly cost me my life. And what happened is I was waterboarded, and my husband of nearly 20 years had taken up with another woman and had moved in with her. And I had said, well, up to here and no more. And there were two things that happened to me that day. I fought for my life as he put my head under the water and strangled me. I realized I really wanted to live. And that's an important thing because so often in life we don't really live it. And the second thing was that I realized when I came through it that there just isn't any help, because it's not something you ever imagine would happen to you. And so when I came through it, I relived my experience, not of the abuse, but what I did was I had gone to the police station to report my abuse, and they'd said, "We're busy, come back. We can't help you. Please, could you come back on Monday?" And it was a Friday. And the problem was when I afterwards, because it was 20 years ago, I've been running Tears Foundation for 10 years. We help thousands of people every month for free all around South Africa. But I didn't realize until then how widespread it was. And one must also remember that with the Me Too movement, we all started speaking about abuse more openly in our country and in the world. So when I got abused, you hid it away and you normally blamed the woman because she had a motor mouth or she was inappropriately dressed or
Yes.
whatever. And so whilst that hasn't changed, we still blame the victim to a large extent. We are understanding that it's the perpetrator's fault. So I started a service. I've put it up on the list here. That works in your area and works all around South Africa. So it's *134* 7355#. And if you dial that number from any phone anywhere in South Africa and follow the prompts, you'll get the 3 nearest places that you can go for help. But on my journey, I discovered that there isn't help for women, that we're alone, and people don't know what to do. So I've been to court with many people and myself, and I found you don't get help. People are dismissive and rude, and to a point that they make you feel like giving up. Never, never, never give up. So Tears Foundation offers things. We work with Mosaic in Cape Town, but we offer things like court support, helping you get a protection order, and we give other advice. So I'll stop doing what my service offering now, and a little bit later we can come back to that. But I have put up on this little.
We'll share all your details, Maria. We will share all the details.
So let me just say one thing. I read every email that comes into Tears, and I have done that for 10 years. And if you mail me, I will listen to you.
Thank you, Maria. Sibongile, good evening. Can you hear me? I don't think Sibongile can hear me. Can you hear me? And I really, really want to speak to Sibongile. And if you are a viewer, you would have seen in September there was a scene, a horrific scene that was shown in the newspapers and on social media, where a gender-based violence activist, Jacqueline Mponsana, was attacked. She later died of her injuries in hospital because she was doused with petrol and then she was burnt alive by her boyfriend. And Sibongile is Jackie's sister, and I really, really want to hear how that affected her family. But Akila, while Sibongile is trying to sort out her signal, I want to come to you. Forensic social work. That term blows my mind because we know social workers. Some of us love them, some of us don't. But what is a forensic social worker? First, let's start there, and then let's work our way to how it fits in with gender-based violence.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, because forensic social work is a fairly new field within the South African context. Okay, so primarily forensic social workers work with children that has been sexually abused. Okay, so the role of a forensic social worker is to conduct a forensic interview. And I don't want to use that terminology. So a forensic interview is basically where you go more into detail about the context, what has happened, the type of clothing, the colors. So it's more in depth than your normal detective would ask questions. A forensic social worker also do an assessment, speaks to the family, the school, the pastor, everybody that's part of that child's environment. A forensic social worker is also an expert witness, because some children are extremely young and then they can't testify in court. And that is where the forensic social worker goes as an expert witness to obviously give the child's narrative. So basically using the child's narrative as evidence on court. And how I think I'm jumping the gun, but I think how it ties in with gender-based violence is that, as I mentioned before, I am a master's student, and part of our program is talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, how to prevent violence against women and children, and in overall. So in forensic social work, that is also a huge focus, because what are we going to do as practitioners to develop programs, to bring about awareness? So social work necessarily is not just about listening to people's problems and doing child protection. Social work has this holistic approach that they use. So gender-based violence and doing programs is also tied into that. So yeah, I get very passionate when I talk about forensic social work.
I'm so delighted to hear this, because gender-based violence is, I think it starts as a child for a lot of us. I know that our focus normally on gender-based violence is on women, but there are definitely men and little boys that are also affected. And the 16 days of activism is not just focused around grown-up women or grown-up men. It is also focused around our children, the most vulnerable, because there are often households where mom is abused and kids are abused. And even if they are not physically abused, a lot of them witness what is happening. So that is an indirect form of abuse, isn't it, Akila?
And I'm so glad that you raised that, because at the organization where I'm working, I'm doing mediation social work. So that is where I mediate between parents that have conflict pertaining the care and contact of a child. And 90% of the cases, the children is exploited to living in an environment where domestic violence is prevalent. And then as a mediation social worker, then my role stop, then I would have to refer to a next department in, we call it the risk assessment. And then for risk assessment to assess the living situations. And I loved how you said that even though that child isn't physically abused by the mommy or the daddy, but they're exploited to that environment. And as the Children's Act says, when a child, we shouldn't exploit the children to such environments. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mara, I'm just stopping with the kids at the moment, because it's also an area that is so near and dear to me, because I mean, we know that it was in the news a couple of weeks ago how the CIA tracked a woman in Cape Town that had actually sold her own kids on pornographic sites. And I mean, if we don't have people like you that are looking after those little ones, then they too would become part of a system. So they would either grow up as women that are being abused, or in some way they would become abusers, isn't it? Because it all goes back to the hurt people hurt people. So
Well, absolutely. I think that we've got to remember that we throw our hands up in the air about the rate of child pregnancy, and that is child abuse. How does a 12-year-old or 11-year-old get pregnant? Mostly it's rape, and we've got to be honest about it. And so we deal a lot with that. Which is why, and in some of the areas, people don't even want to use the word sex. Never mind the fact that the child got raped. I've recently had a case that horrified me, which I'm hoping I can phone you about, Aquila. And it is alarming that we are calling it child pregnancy rather than children who've been raped and are pregnant as a result thereof.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mara, your organization, because it's a national organization like SAITA, offers a lot of assistance to women. Now, in the informal sector, we ladies are the most marginalized economically, just by virtue of how the economy is structured. But that automatically brings other social problems. And part of that is gender-based violence. So if I struggle every day to put a loaf of bread on the table and I go home and things aren't good, give us some coping mechanisms that you can do, because it's not always easy to go to the neighbors, or sometimes the neighbors hear, but when they come out tomorrow morning, they just greet you politely and won't even ask whether everything is okay. So help us with some coping mechanisms.
Yes, thank you. Ladies that are watching, my story is that I was abused, but my story is bigger than that, and I'm sure you can identify with it. I stayed too long in a bad situation where my husband was verbally abusive and in many other ways. Financially, he depended on me, so he was financially abusive. He was verbally abusive. He absolutely shouted all the time, and there were many other things. And what happened is I kept thinking for nearly 20 years, very stupidly, he'll change. Things will get better if I just do this. Because what happens in a bad relationship, it doesn't have to be a marriage, and it could be two women. It doesn't have to be heterosexual. So one must say that we are naturally women. We are naturally nurturers, and we are providers, and we would rather give up our food than see our family go hungry. And so a lot of the decisions that we make are made around the survival of our unit, or to try and make things better. And quite often we get it confused, and we start to say, well, the priest wouldn't like it this, or the imam wouldn't like this, because we seek other um, uh, uh, justification. So the bottom line is, if it does not feel right, it is not right. And that's the first thing we as women have to acknowledge. I failed to do it. You can see my story on the YouTube, Against All Odds. It's under my name, and you can see my story. And you're seeing the second part of my story now, because I'm a survivor. I love my life. I get up every day and feel I'm blessed. So if you are in an abusive relationship, we can help you to leave, but we can also give you some amazing tips. So the first thing that I found is I didn't want to admit that my marriage or my relationship had failed. And so it's hard. We don't want to, because we're women and we want to fix everything. So once you've admitted your relationship, he's hitting you, or he's shouting at you, or he's taking all your money, or whatever you're abusive, and sadly there are lots of other abuse. There's verbal abuse, there are lots of other things. Once you admit it to yourself, you need to make the decision about, is this a life-threatening situation? And honestly, if he's hitting you, it is a life-threatening situation. And so you have to prepare to leave. And that's a very hard part, because when you leave, you are admitting to your family, your church, your mosque, your neighbors, your whatever, that your relationship didn't work out. And it's hard, but your life is important, and you have an opportunity to start a new life. And so then I always suggest to people, once you acknowledge you need to leave, you need to plan. And in planning, you need to do quite a number of things. When I worked in a shelter in a place called Pickersthorpe in George, and I discovered that a lot of those women, which, and I'm sure that it's the same for all of you that I'm speaking to, a lot of those people didn't have all their paperwork. So the very first thing that you need to start with, if you've got children, you need to get all their papers, their birth certificates, the whatever else, their school papers. if you are married or not, it doesn't matter under what law, you need to have that paperwork. If you rent a home or you own a home, you need that paperwork. And a lot of people don't have bank accounts. You do need to open a bank account. And you need to buy yourself a cheap cell phone that you give the number of to your family and your support. So the very first thing is you have to prepare to leave. So let me reiterate, if your life is in danger, run. You don't need all this kit. But if your life has been going on and you can go on for a while, you need to prepare. If necessary, if you've got kids and you've found a place to go, you need to take 1 or 2 things out of the house each week when you go shopping or whatever, so that all of a sudden all your stuff isn't gone, because a lot of abusive men come after you. So just remember that you can't be accepted in a shelter unless you've laid a charge. A lot of people are put off. They don't want to lay a charge because they're still protecting their abuser. So to lay a charge, when you go to the shelter, they're going to ask you for the charge number. The reason is to protect you and to protect the shelter, because we have experiences where the men come with their friends and try to break the gate down or shoot. It's quite hair-raising. Or they'll phone and they'll promise you they'll never, ever, ever do it again. And I'm afraid quite often, 99.9%, that's a lie. So what I'm urging you, all of you can write to me. As Louisa said, she'll give you my numbers and I can send you the escape plans. I can give you the links to shelters and I can help you. I will guide you through anything that you have queries on. I've got a couple of very good videos. I work with everybody across the border. So some of my videos are people, Dali and Porfer made a program for me, educating us as well, because quite honestly, rape doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a shape, it doesn't have a rand value. So it doesn't matter whether you are a person who lives in a shack or a person who lives in a mansion. Rape can knock on your door. And as Louise correctly said, there's no vaccine for rape. Rape means you've got to do something about it yourself. And we are here to help you. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Mara. Akila, I've asked Mara about tips for women. But now I want to touch on something that is very sensitive, and I know a lot of people will probably crucify me for this. But I know that up until today, there are still little girls and little boys who goes to their mom and says, that uncle, that person touched me inappropriately, and mom, sometimes she knows, but she's so afraid of a backlash that she says to the child, you are talking nonsense. What are the tips that you would give any adult that is faced with a child that comes to them and says, I'm not comfortable around that adult?
Wow, as you said, this topic is obviously very sensitive for some, but for me, I'm extremely passionate about awareness. I'm actually doing a child sexual abuse awareness program in primary schools with grade 1s, 2s, and grade 3s. And I'm actually having a support group for foster parents whose children has been sexually abused. But to answer your question, when a child discloses, it's imperative for the adult to remain calm. Remain calm, and we have this term in social work, you need to keep a poker face. Do not show the child that you are shocked or you are horrified, because the moment when you do that, the child will not disclose any further. So first step, remain calm, keep on the poker face, listen to the child, and then if, say for argument's sake, it's the child telling the mother. So obviously there is a process that needs to be followed. But the most important thing is always to believe the child. always believe the child, because it takes so much of the child to disclose, because they have the feelings of shame and guilt, so they need somebody to support them. So I just quickly want to explain what the process is. So when a child discloses, okay, it's important to go to the police station. You lay the charge, and then afterwards, it's a unit in the police called FCS. So FCS will send out a forensic social worker to do the assessment on the child. If they feel that the child needs to get a medical examination, the child will be taken. Obviously, we live in Cape Town, so it's called Bremer at the Tutuzela Center. And then the investigating officer will take it from there. But the most important, and this is me asking everybody out there, believe the child. When the child says something, if I can make an example. So in our family, we have this thing when we have family gatherings, we kiss greet. We kiss greet each other. And my daughter came to me and she said, "You know what, mommy? I actually don't like uncle whatever and whatever to kiss and hug me." And then I said, "Okay, I'm very happy that you explained." And I went to him and I said, "You know what? I know that this is a tradition in our family, and I don't want you to feel offended. However, you're making my daughter feel uncomfortable. So in future, rather greet her, but don't kiss her and don't hug her." So I think that is what we as parents need to do. We always need to be alert, especially when the child feels uncomfortable. I just want to make one last example. So this grade 2 learner, she went to the teacher and she said, "My uncle keeps on taking my cookie." And the teacher was obviously insinuating that it's a cookie that you eat. And then afterwards, the teacher asked her, "So why does your uncle keep taking on your cookie?" But what was actually happening, the uncle was touching her. And that's why it's so important for us as parents to teach our children not to give private parts pet names.
Yes.
So that is also a bit of advice I want to give to the viewers out there.
Thank you, Akila. Sibongile, good evening and very, very welcome. I'm so glad that you are back on.
Thank you.
I'm really so
My
glad to
connection
see
was
you.
hectic.
Yeah, no, the signal does mess us around sometimes. Sibongile, thank you. Thank you for taking this brave step of talking to us this evening. So I'm going to say to you, Jackie, and I want to tell you, and I want you to tell us, who was Jackie?
Wow. Jackie was a friend to a lot of people. She was a colleague. She was a mother of a 13-year-old girl. She's a daughter. She's a very, very loving person. I'm sure if there is any, but there might be a few people who would say anything bad about her. And it goes to show at a funeral the things that were said about her. Yeah, so I don't really know actually what to say.
Sibongile, what did Jackie do? What was her life mission and purpose?
Well, strangely enough, she was fighting for purposes like these, even despite of the way she passed away. She stood for women and she fought for women. And one would have never thought that this would be a way that, she would leave us. You would think maybe she would be knocked by a car or something. Instead, she, the way she died was brutal and, actually against what she was fighting for, as a woman, for women themselves. So, yeah.
Sibongile, I want to ask you though, you as a family and as her friends, you must have known her partner. Was there any warning lights was there anything that Jackie has ever shared that you would say, I should have listened, I should have asked? Is there anything like that? I'm asking that because we're sitting here in a safe space, and I want to give all of us, men and women, I want to teach us to become a little bit more sensitive to what people say in our conversations that we might miss.
Yeah. In most cases, you would have, situations like that where someone would have mentioned something or said something that would have triggered. But I wouldn't lie. Most of friends and family members were, it's someone that when you look at the person, you just don't like the person that you're seeing. Especially for her, they were not compatible at all. It wouldn't be someone you would have think that she would have dated if they stood together next to each other. And I would ask you, do you know who her partner is? You wouldn't point to his direction at all. That's how it was. So it was someone that we wouldn't like put her together with her. And I think because of that, we probably as friends and family pushed her away so she wouldn't mention anything about him, because she would have probably thought it would be a matter of we told you so, because it was, it was someone you wouldn't like recommend or even, give your blessings for. You understand? So I guess in that sense we sort of pushed her away, because then if there were in occasions that there were things happening beforehand, she wouldn't come to us and tell us, because she knows that you're going to say, I told you so, or like, why are you telling me? Maybe, but at times like this, you say now you wish she would have said, or maybe you wish you should have showed interest. But in our case, well, in my case especially, I didn't show interest because I wanted her to know that it was something that I was against, and hoping at the back of your mind that it wouldn't last, especially if it would lead to something like this, So yeah.
And after Jacqueline's passing, how has the system treated you? Because I wanna get back to that. Mara in the introduction said that when she went many years ago, when she went to the police station, they said to her, come back when the weekend is over. As a family with you, what was your experience? Because there's a couple of things that aids gender-based violence, and sometimes our system is one of them.
Yeah. No, I heard clips here and there of her saying that, and I could sense that there wasn't help towards her at all. And that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm very upset and frustrated at the system because of, it's more than like 2 months now that she's gone and nothing has happened. And I'm the one that's been following up with the detectives, who are handling the case. Whereas I would think maybe it's supposed to be the other way around, like giving us a heads up, even if you have nothing, but show us that you're doing something at least. But no. So, and each time I phone, the first time, like it wasn't even, we hadn't even buried her. When I went to the offices, I had some documents I needed signing. So, and I asked the detective, so do you have anything to tell me? And he told me to help him find him, I'm not a police officer. I want him caught, but why is he asking me to now be a police officer all of a sudden with no qualification of being a police officer, that we must help them look for him? And then the last call I made to him was a week ago, where I phoned, like, I just out of the blue, I just like thought, it's been quiet. What's happening? So I phoned him, and then he tells me he hears that there's this person who's hiding him somewhere, where they know where the place is. But he's dodging them. And I'm like, if you know that he's being hidden at this certain residence, why don't you just sit around there and watch, or, just so you can catch him or something? And they're like, no, we're trying, but he slips through our hands. But I just feel like nothing has been done. I don't know, because it's close to me, but there's been more cases before this that I've felt that like the police just do nothing. you know. So, and I would have thought, it would have been handled even differently because of what she stood for to begin with, but they just seem to be laid back and like they don't care. So, as Mara said, like, I don't find any help at all. They're not doing anything according to me. And if they're saying that they have something else to say about that, well, they should show me what they've done so far, and even calls. I'm the one who's following up. And we've been asking for help, even, from her work. They've been helping a lot, finding out, but like nothing is done. And the minute they get a call to find out what's happening, then they'll phone you to say, oh yeah, no, we just want to let you know nothing, we have nothing so far. We hear that he goes here and there, but they don't catch him. They're just telling us hearsays, but nothing has been done.
I'm really sorry that with everything going on, you still have to deal with that also. I saw Luyolo was on for a few minutes there, and I really wanted to speak to him because, ladies, I wanted you to meet Loyolo, and I wanted our viewers to also meet Loyolo, because Loyolo is actually the co-founder of such a refreshing organization. And it's a men's organization that calls themselves #Langa for Men. And he's a man that started an organization that stands against gender-based violence. So if he's not able to make it on tonight, before the 16 days of activism is over, I'm really going to invite all of you back, because I think that is such a worthy discussion. Mara, if you could give anybody a virtual hug with words tonight, anybody that is sitting not knowing where next, what would you say?
Well, I'd just like to reiterate what I said at the beginning. If it's a life-threatening situation, don't stay, because I actually physically fought for my life. I felt I was taking my last breath. And so abuse doesn't stop. So on the positive side, there is life after abuse. I can honestly tell you that I'm happy. I'm happy. I love my life. And so it breaks my heart to hear that Sibongile and other people haven't received the help they need. So Sibongile, please will you send me your information? I'm not going to diverse into that now, but I'll do my best to help. And then the encouragement I'd say is, there are people like me. There are many of us out there, every size, shape, and color. It's not defined to an area. It is women who've experienced abuse who want to help other women. We are a fellowship. And I'm saying I am there for you. I've got contacts across South Africa, and I'm prepared to network you with them. I can't say I'll always find an answer for your problem, but I can tell you I will really try. I also want to share with you the price that I paid to do tears. It sounded easy, but I couldn't get any funding for the first 6 years. I've had my electricity cut off. I've had my water cut off. I haven't been able to pay my staff their stipends. I absolutely know what it is like to hit the absolute dirt. And my partner, who doesn't live with me, I've dated him for 15 years, but after my bad experience, it's good for him to have his own house, and he's not the one who abused me. So we have an unusual relationship, dating a lot of years, but we have different homes. He kept saying, Mara, but are you crazy? Are you absolutely crazy? But you're keeping on going, and you can't get any government money, and no one wants to hear you. And I said, yes, because there are thousands of women that we help every month, that if I shut the doors, who's going to help them? So I'm saying to each one of you, wherever you are, whatever you do, I know what it's like. And the reason I said about having my water, lights, and everything cut off, I'm not sitting here as some successful fat cat. I've been there. I've done it. I know what it's like. So wherever you are in life, you deserve to live a decent life. You deserve to be given the grace and the honor and the favor of being a woman who gets up every day and goes about her duties, because we all deserve human dignity. And so often we're not given dignity. And I'm passionate about your dignity. And so I'm asking you, if you're in a bad situation, do something about it. It's hard. It's hard. Nearly got me killed. I understand. But do something. Don't stay in that place. Take stock. Like I said at the beginning, admit that you're in a bad place. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what you feel, what you think. Bruises do heal, but the hurt they've caused never heals, and you have to do something.
Thank you. Thank you, Maura. Akila, I need some wise words from you as well, please.
Wow, you know what? I've been sitting here and I've listened to Sibongile, and I'm actually empathizing with her in the sense of her frustration and anger towards the system. But I'm not going to dwell onto that. um, I would just like to share a story where a mother came to our organization where the father was physically abusing her. So she came there. She was bruised. The two small children was with her, and then afterwards he came running after her into the offices. And what I saw that day is that power imbalance, that manipulation, where that wife felt, if she left, she doesn't have a work, she's financially stable, her family doesn't stay in Cape Town. So initially her thought was, if she left this man, where is she going to? She has nothing. She literally just has the clothes on her back. And I want to go back to what Maura said. To the woman out there, you are not alone. There are organizations such as Tears, such as Badisa. There are organizations out there that is willing to assist you, that's willing to support you, that's willing to guide you. But if you're going to suffer in silence, how are you going to get that support and that help that you need? And I know it's very difficult for women to speak out because of financial constraints, about they're worried about the children, what about the children's school. But at the end of the day, Mara, Sibongile, me as a social worker, even this organization, we are there to help women out there. We're there to assist. So don't suffer in silence, because there is help out there.
Sibongile, and you, what would you say to a family that is looking at a partner and saying that person is no good? And what would you say to that person that is in a relationship where the family says, we don't like her, we don't like him? What would your words to them be?
Surely we don't all think the same. But if there's a lot of people saying the same thing, something must be up. So I would say don't stay there because you feel that if you leave him, I mean, we grow up, these organizations and these things happen, we see them. The things that play on TV show us these kinds of abuse, but if you don't talk, you suffer in silence and no one knows. For example, with Jackie, maybe it's been happening for like a very long time, but with us not knowing because she never felt comfortable telling us. So, I mean, even if it's not family, like colleagues, or even just dial, there's numbers nowadays to even dial toll-free numbers, talk to someone, say something, that even if you're scared to leave, but I mean, if you talk to someone else, they'll probably be able to assist, because otherwise it ends up in like this. Some people are not lucky, like, unfortunately, like Jackie. So we then we'll talk after she's gone. So with family, I think be more assertive, like speak to the person. If you have to force them. Show, like, explain why you don't see this person as the right person. You know, for example, now she's left a 13-year-old daughter who also like saw what happened to her mother. That is a scar that none of us can remove, and that's what freaks me out and scares me, because as much as I'm there for her, but I can never remove that image, you know, that she saw of her mother, and no one can. Like, even with me, I have sleepless nights sometimes because of the condition I saw her in, and which is why I say it upsets me that nothing's been done, you know, after all of that we've been going through and still going through. I'm not saying it will be better if should he get caught, but at least it will be something, you know, that says, you know, something is being done after all of this suffering that we've been doing, that we're still going through. And people will think that you're only in pain when the incident is happening. It's actually way after, because now there's people that are left afterwards that you need to look after and take care of. And then what happens to you in the meantime, because you're trying to be the superwoman, trying to get, you know, everyone in order and okay. But and then you sit and think, you going through all of this and that person is still roaming around doing, you know. And even if it's not him, even the system, when people are talking at home that, yo, this thing happened to this family, don't you want to make change, you know? Don't you want to work harder into finding this person so that you can do something better for someone else, this family that's in this pain now, going through this trauma, you know? Jackie's mom, I don't know if anyone knows, she's turning 70 next year in April, and you can imagine seeing her daughter in that condition, and she can't bring her back, and she was the breadwinner, so who's going to take care of her or her daughter? So, you know, people do things not thinking how it's going to affect the other person. But yeah, really, if you see your friends, your sister, your whatever family member's partner, and you can see that the ways that, you know, it's signs of abuse somehow, it doesn't matter if it's verbal, because verbal can turn into physical one day. It starts small and then it ends up being something big. Like, talk to the people, sit them down.
Thank you, Sibongile. Akila, you want to interject there quickly?
Yeah, so I was just thinking to myself that gender-based violence is a very serious social problem. And to the men out there, gender-based violence isn't just based on women. It happens to men also out there. And I can't even imagine how a man feels when he is being verbally or physically abused. So for the men out there, there's also help for you. As Mara said, there's Tears Foundations, there's other organizations, and to the men out there, to speak about your abuse doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you a survivor because you're reaching out and you're seeking help. So gender-based violence touches every gender. So it's not just focused on women, it's focused on men and women, and there's help for men and women out there. So I just wanted to reiterate on that.
Ladies, thank you so much for an inspirational and emotional show. This is definitely a conversation that is far from over, and I hope to see you back as part of our panel. Tonight's discussion definitely warrants us, and I'm going to make sure that when we continue this discussion, Luyolo and his partner is on to tell us about the men's organization. But I also think I want to get somebody in from the system, so that they can explain to us what exactly is the holdup. Akila, I see you giggling. I'm going to try. Let's see what we can do. SAITA is the national voice for the sector. Thank you for joining us. Did you know that if you join as a SAITA member, you will also have access to upgrade your membership for a nominal fee and include the Guardian Plan, which is a product aimed at giving individuals within a 50-kilometer radius of a metropolitan area access to security networks. Now, this product also offers support like a crisis center, trauma and assault protection, HIV cover, and SAITA legal benefits. If this sounds like something that you need, download the SAITA app from the Google Play Store or from the iStore and click on the membership tab. SAITA StraightTalk, once again, talking about all the issues that affect the informal sector. Thank you for joining us. From me, Louise, and our panelists, good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.